So here's another example of governments imposing unnecessary dangers on citizens. Federal Climate Change and Energy Minister Chris Bowen has made it very clear he wants as many of us as possible to own electric cars. But they are fire hazards. Here's one that spontaneously combusted with its owner inside in Vancouver a few months ago. The car's electric system shut down and the owner had to break the windows to escape before the fire got out of hand. He's actually lucky to be alive. I've heard some people weren't so lucky in one of these electric cars. Alexandra, are these electric cars getting more or less safe?
Well, there's a few reasons why electric cars aren't the future. No matter what Labor tries to do, there isn't enough lithium, there's not enough raw materials to do it, and they're getting more expensive. However, as the governments try and legislate the market into changing, there's a push to make cheaper and cheaper electric vehicles. And as we know, and as has been demonstrated in China, the cheaper you try and make these cars, the more dangerous they become. And so China, which has probably the best market to demonstrate this problem, they've got lots of cheap EVs and they are catching fire in their hundreds every year. And they are causing, as you say, fire hazards. Now, if this happens in the street, you can see the footage, the cars burn very hot, much hotter than a petrol car, and they're difficult to put out. Now wonder what happens to an EV that catches fire in an underground car park in a city apartment building surrounded by other electric vehicles. You end up with these noxious, very hot fires burning inside enclosed spaces that nobody can put out. They pose an extraordinary risk to safety and life. And yet you'll hear from the government that they're safe and effective, the same narrative we've heard from other places around. Now, this is a problem that's going to increase exponentially, as China has found, and ignoring it isn't going to solve it. So the question is, what do we do around the fire safety of these EVs? Because they're most likely to catch fire when they're either sitting parked and stopped or plugged in and charging, which means they're going to be in their car parks at home.
Exactly. Well, we saw from that video that on the open street, a fire truck can approach the car and hopefully put the fire out. It takes a lot of water to put out a fire in an electric car. But nonetheless, if it happened in an underground car park, how does a fire truck reach that?
They actually don't know. So this is the problem. They don't have a plan for what happens when these electric vehicles catch fire in residential or commercial car parks. They don't know. And goodness knows what it's going to do to your insurance complexes. And let alone the people, I don't know if you saw, but in the early part of the article, The Australian was carrying a story where this guy comes to his apartment building and plugs his car into the mains for the building. So everyone pays to charge his electric vehicle. So they've got to not only outfit the buildings to allow to charge these cars, but they've also got to work out what to do safety-wise. And no one's got an answer. And Labor's not interested in an answer, except for maybe charging the taxpayer to find one, which is what will happen.
I have to give credit to that bloke who's plugging it into the common power point at his apartment block, because charging these things isn't cheap, is it?
But what he said was that his fellow apartment building renters were happy to cover the cost. Now, somehow,
of course they were, yeah.
Somehow I doubt that might be the case. It feels slightly like fiction.
I bet he's the one who never puts the bins out on bin day as well.
Good luck getting your neighbours to buy you a cup of coffee, let alone charge your car for free.